All right. Welcome to Coffee with Cobb. Today we are going to be discussing voice over IP phones and what that system looks like and staying connected with your employees, your coworkers, and your clients, and what all that technology looks like today for you all. Today's presenters, we're going to have Jeff Blunt, our virtual CIO, and Patrick Judy. He's our IT solution specialist. And I will go ahead and pass it over to you, Patrick. There you go.
All right. Thank you very much, Christian. Today we are going to be talking about voice over IP systems. Kind of want to touch back on traditional PBX style systems before we get into that. So when we're talking about those traditional PBX systems, we're talking about the old copper lines that come into your building, lead into a big box phone system that might sit in your network closet. From there, the lines go into a local switch and then run to each phone within the business. And what you have here is a very standard, very reliable phone system. Up until the turn of the century, that's all anybody really wanted or needed. Now, over the past 100 years, that's been the standard. No internet to rely on. It also will provide small businesses with a professional image, where one number can really connect to everybody within the office. However, there are some downsides. These systems are on site. Calls can really only come into that system, which is located within that building. In the case of a pandemic, for instance, you can't just pick that phone up and take it home and continue to make calls. These systems are a little pricier. The average cost for installation on a new on-premise system is anywhere from, $600 to $1,000 per user. This is including user licensing, buying the system, getting it installed, running cables. Some of these systems are using the internet, but then if they are a system that does that, they're going to have to deal with an on-site server, VM licensing, anything like that. That comes with a whole nother set of costs to maintain and keep updated. Speaking of maintenance, like any other computer system, these are big systems that need maintenance and upkeep. You need to maintain them with over time with parts. You have issues over time. This is going to come with additional costs for on-site work that's being done by your provider, and it's also going to cost you with time spent being down. Customer service is a notorious issue with these systems. I think we can all relate to a time in our lives where we've had to sit on hold with a phone company for an undisclosed amount of time trying to fix a problem or add a user or something like that. Long distance charges, obviously they still apply for these systems. On top of being very expensive to implement, you will kind of get nickel and dimed if you are making any long distance calls. Finally, they are just phones. There's no mobility, there's no integrations. You can make voice calls and that's about it. A common name for these lines coming into your building are called POTS lines, and that's really all they are. That's an acronym that stands for plain old telephone system. So, most of the on-premise systems are either going out of business or they're moving to a model in the cloud. So having said that, voice over internet protocol has been around for almost 50 years, but around the turn of the century, it really started gaining popularity. Using what was available for bandwidth in the early 21st century, of course, there were some voice quality issues. As the lifeblood of the system, the quality of the calls in a VoIP system really rely on the quality of the internet service and the bandwidth that you do have. So just want to quickly back up and kind of define what we were talking about with voice over IP systems. They are hosted cloud-based solutions delivering voice data through the internet. That's the easiest way to describe it. So with VoIP, calls come in over the public switch telephone network, and then they come into the system over your internet line, into a switch, then through the Ethernet cord that goes right into the phone. So in short, these systems really allow you to make calls through the internet line, and the systems themselves are actually hosted in the cloud. As technology has made leaps and bounds over the last 20 years, so has the quality and features of a hosted phone system. To talk a little bit more about those features, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Blunt. So Jeff, take it away.
Thanks, Patrick. As Patrick said, we're going to talk about some features that you can expect from a VoIP system if you were to implement one in your office here. Patrick mentioned the price a minute ago, but I'll kind of pull the curtain back a little bit and just kind of give you an idea of what could you expect whenever you are moving to a VoIP system. The general baseline cost for a VoIP seat or a VoIP line is probably going to be in the $15 to $25 per line or per seat. There may be some upfront costs with this, but nothing compared to a big project like running copper lines and setting up a physical phone system on site. Mobility is a big thing with these systems. The ability to have a soft phone or a phone that you can use on your computer as a piece of software or on your cell phone. That's a big thing right now, being able to work remotely. And then the ability to be able to forward calls to a cell phone. That just gives you the features and functions to be able to use your phone when you're not sitting there at your desk. Integrations into a CRM like a Salesforce.com or Microsoft 365 is an important thing that you can do with a VoIP system. Maybe reclaiming some space in your office. If you've got an on-site phone system right now that's taking up a lot of space in a closet, with the VoIP system, again, you just need the internet, and most likely you have the internet at your office right now, so you may be able to reclaim some of that space in a closet. Changes are fairly easy with the VoIP system. In the past, it may have required a technician to come on site, physically move some cables around. If you needed to move a phone from one desk to another, or if a new employee came, if you had to reset a password on a voicemail. Now with a VoIP system, it's fairly easy just to log online to an online portal and make those changes right there on the fly. Voicemail to email is another big thing that a lot of people like, a lot of employees like that. Somebody leaves you a voicemail on your phone, you'll get an email with a WAV file where you can listen to that voicemail. Some systems will even transcribe that voicemail into text, so you can read that voicemail right there in that email. Call recording could be an important feature for some people. Being able to record calls if you're at a call center, or if you have a service desk, or maybe you're in the law vertical and you need to be able to record some calls. That's a fairly easy thing to do with a VoIP system. Auto attendants are a pretty standard feature for a lot of systems. Press 1 to go here, press 2 to go there, be able to direct your customers and your clients to a specific person or department within your organization. Long distance is included, so most of the time there are long distance minutes added with each seat, and then those minutes get pooled all together, so you kind of share those throughout the organization. Unless you're an outbound call center that's calling all around the United States, chances are you're not really going to have some long distance issues at all. E911 compliant, just some things you want to be sure that you check on here. Make sure your VoIP dealer is registering your devices for you for enhanced 911, and that doesn't fall on you. The last thing we want, obviously, is for you to call 911 and they show up to the wrong location. And then being able to port your phone number. So existing phone number that you've had for years, you're able to port that phone number with you over to a VoIP system. So your customers and your clients that know that phone number will continue to use that phone number and not have to learn a new phone number for you. So those are just some features that you can expect from a standard VoIP system. In full disclosure, we also want to kind of go over some issues that you might run into and maybe some suggestions of how to prevent or not run into some of these issues. As Patrick said, obviously the calls go over the internet. So call quality, especially back in the early 2000s, could have been an issue and was an issue, quite frankly, for some users. If your internet's not very strong, maybe you live in a rural area, there's a chance that you could have some call quality issues. There's some things that we can do in place now to help prevent some of those. But obviously a standard internet connection these days should be more than enough for a VoIP call. Internet reliability, obviously, again, it relies on the internet. The actual VoIP call itself takes a very small amount of bandwidth. but it has very little tolerance for any dropped packets. So you need to be sure that you're moving on to infrastructure there a little bit. You need to be sure that you have some updated firewalls, some updated networking equipment there to be sure that you can do some quality of service, making sure that you have bandwidth available for those VoIP calls. Jumping over to security, the phones themselves end up being just another computer on the network. And although there aren't very many, if any, cyber attacks directing or directed specifically at a telephone, it's definitely a good idea to make sure, again, that you have some modern day equipment in place to secure your network as much as possible. Back to infrastructure real quick. There are a few things that you just want to be sure that you have in place whenever you're moving over to a VoIP system. Network switches that are a PoE switch or power over Ethernet are going to allow the phones to get their electrical power so that they can operate. So that's an important thing. Again, an updated firewall, some sort of updated cabling within your building there. These are just kind of standard things that you're going to have in place to prevent some issues. And again, with porting phone numbers, you know, that was obviously a feature that you can do. However, if there's an area that you're going to run into hurdles and things that you're going to have to get over during the migration process, it's going to be on the porting the phone numbers. Unfortunately, the telecom world is a little bit like the Wild West, or maybe more like a toddler room at a daycare center. They want to hold on to their telephone numbers, and you have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that you own that number. Jump through the hoops, play the games, fill out the forms to be sure that you have that phone number or there aren't any delays there. If you're dealing with a seasoned VoIP provider, an experienced VoIP provider, they've been through this before. We've been through this before. We know the games to play. We know the forms to fill out to be able to make that transition as painless as possible. So those are just some issues, you know, that we wanted to alert you to, and some different ways that we may be able to help with that. I'll turn it back over to Patrick here.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for including some of that. So, you know, talking about unified communications, this is where I guess the systems can get a little bit more unique, a little more mobile. Most every cloud-hosted solution has a soft phone application that can be downloaded to a PC or a smartphone. These apps let your phone system become truly mobile. These apps will let you take and make calls anywhere that there is an internet connection, and it kind of looks like it's doing it from your office. If I were calling on my cell phone through my unified communications app, it would look like I'm coming from my desk at Cobb Technologies. A lot of times these will also provide video conferencing features, screen sharing, chat functionality, different things like that. And this would really also be where you start digging into more features like call recording, creative portals, and other call center features. Cobb is using the BroadSoft Unified Communications app, and over the past few months, we really haven't skipped a beat. Our service lines are still ringing in, our account managers are still able to transfer calls to one another, all while working from home. A feature I really like is the ability to push and pull a call. For example, if I'm at my desk phone or if I'm using the app on my PC and I have to leave, but I want to remain on a call, I can push a couple of buttons and transfer that call right to my cell phone and walk right out the door. Vice versa, if I'm getting into the office and I'm using my UC1 app, I can push the call over to my PC or my desk phone without skipping a beat. So another big point for these mobile apps is that they can fully replace your desk phone if you don't want those anymore. Users can just have a PC set up with a headset and microphone and they're good to go, or just use the application on their cell phone. So whichever you want, but this really has helped us a lot working from home recently. So speaking of working from home, we do have a special guest with us today. Donna Wood is the Director of Operations at Jeff McDonald and Associates. Donna is one of Cobb's Jeff McDonald is one of Cobb's voice over IP customers, and Donna was kind enough to join us today and talk about her experience with the system, especially over the last couple months. So Donna, why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about your organization, who you are, and what you do.
Sure. Good. Hello. Thank you for inviting me to Coffee with Cobb. Full disclosure, I have a coffee cup, but I do not drink coffee, so we'll just set that to the side. I am the Director of Operations here at the firm. That means basically that you do whatever everyone else tells you to do. So that's kind of my position here. Our experience with this was that once we realized that the pandemic was getting to the point where we needed to make some very serious decisions. I think we initially was going to have maybe half of our workers remote and the other half on site, but on Tuesday, the 17th, when we realized that we were going to have to make some very difficult decisions, I reached out to you guys and said, look, it's 4 o'clock on a Tuesday. We're sending everybody home and I need everybody to be up and running by 8:30 in the morning. That's a pretty tall ticket, and so I was very concerned about it. Phone calls are our lifeline, not only for our existing clients who may be calling in to speak to us, but obviously for new clients, people who have experienced accidents, motor vehicle accidents. They're trying to get through to an attorney. So telephone calls and the ability to speak to new clients, obviously that's everything to us. And so my experience was that when I let you guys know on 4 o'clock on that Tuesday that this is what we were going to do, immediately everything was kind of in motion, and by 9:30, 10 o'clock the very next morning, we were 95% able to work from home. We used the apps. We upgraded everyone to be able to use the apps from their phone. We did not have to interrupt the flow of things for our clients, and so that was super important. We didn't have to say, you know, if you'll call Maggie at home, she'll be able to help you. They were able to just call our extension. Had we not told them, no one would have ever known we were working remotely. We really didn't experience any issues. The only few issues that we experienced had more to do with some of our workers, maybe they had an older phone or maybe they had some internet connection at home. But honestly, by noon the next day, we had everything worked out and we were able to be up and running as normal. We are still same status. We have a few people here on site, but for the most part, we are still working remotely. And it always comes up in different conversations and meetings that we have with people that we work with, other firms such as ours. We're always letting them know, look, this is a great option. We love it. We probably will not do anything different. Even if everyone were to come back tomorrow, we probably will not do anything different. We like the ability to be able to know that our employees are speaking to their clients. We can still pull those logs. We can see the way the phone calls are routing, and we know anytime there's an issue with our phone system, which is just very few and far between. So we're super happy with our setup. I would suggest it for anyone who has employees working remotely. It just seems to be the very best option, the easiest option. So we've been very pleased with it.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank everybody for coming out and joining us for a cup of coffee today. I'm going to turn it back over to our moderator, Christian, and let him take us out.
All right, sure thing. I'll get started by talking about our next week's episode. It'll be titled Trading Print for Profitability. And our presenters again will be Mark Klein and Michael Young, and that will be the topic of what tools, both hardware and software, are out there to help you control the cost of printing in your organization. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And now we have reached the Q&A section. And it looks like we already have one from a Sal. And he is asking, can I integrate voice over IP with my current PBX system? Who would like to take that question?
I would say that's going to kind of depend on what your current PBX system, who that's through. I know that you can integrate voice over IP systems into that. It's kind of a SIP trunking option. But that is kind of more on the engineering side of things. We could definitely, if you do have a PBX style system that you would like to try and integrate voice over IP through, I think we could certainly sit down and have a conversation with that and see what your specific needs and wants are and see if we can match those.
All right, let's see here. We have another question from Anonymous, and they are asking what happens when the phone system, what happens to the phone system when the internet goes down?
Yeah, we get that question a lot. I think it's important, again, every voice over IP provider is different. Most of the time they're going to go ahead and in the interim before they go live with the system, set up some different call flows or failovers. So if you tried to call my desk and our internet is out, it could either go to a specific cell phone that you have set up in the system, or it could roll over to, if your company has multiple locations, if our Richmond internet goes down, somebody calls into the Richmond office, it's going to roll to the Virginia Beach office, it's going to roll to the Roanoke office. We can set all that stuff up beforehand. So there's a lot of customization because it's all through the internet that you can kind of play with to make sure that you're always able to be reached.
So if you go down, you're not totally down. There's other ways around that.
Never totally down. Again, you can either go to a different location, you could forward to a cell phone. There's a lot of different options.
Cool. Let's see, we'll give it a couple minutes to see if we have any more questions rolling in. Is there anything else we want to touch on before we reach the end of this webinar?
I don't think so. I mean, we've got plenty of blogs and videos about voice over IP on our website, so we encourage everybody to go check those out. And obviously, if you have any questions or want to reach out to talk about maybe how voice over IP can help your company, please feel free to email either myself or Jeff at the emails on the screen.
All right. And it looks like we got another question from Anonymous. The question reads, once I sign a contract for a voice over IP system, what does the typical timeline look like before we are up and running?
Okay. Again, that, situational and by different provider. But sometimes if you just want to get phones and you've got somebody who can install everything and set everything up for you, you may sign and they'll send you some phones and have you set everything up and run everything yourself. That could be a couple of weeks. Jeff mentioned earlier, one of the biggest hangups in this process is porting numbers. So if you are wanting to port your numbers, that's usually going to take the longest amount of time, and we typically allow about 30 days for that process to happen. Other VoIP providers, like I was saying, if you're going to set up all those call flows and set up, direct dial numbers and different things like that, different call patterns throughout the office, sometimes you may get a project manager who's going to help you take care of that. We usually typically allow 30 to 45 days to get fully stood up, but obviously it can be sooner or longer than that depending on a few variables. I would say 30 to 45 days, but we are going to walk you through kind of getting set up, call flows and everything, porting the numbers. Then we come in and install any hardware we need. That may be a new switch or a session border controller, just to make sure you have quality of voice. Set up the phones, and then you're good to go.
All right, sounds good. Let's see, we'll take one more here. We have another question from Anonymous. Question reads, I currently have voice over IP through my internet provider. Why would switching to Cobb as a service be a good idea?
As far as for Cobb as a service, we are really going to focus on customer service and kind of customer relations. We've talked to a handful of different companies who are clients who have a bigger internet provider that that may be providing them with their voice over IP systems. You kind of get lost in the shuffle with those. We all know how, again, going back to the customer service portion of this, you know, we've all sat on the phone for a long amount of time trying to figure out something with our phone system. At Cobb specifically, we have a customer service division where if you do need to ask a question of how do I do this, or if you're having voice quality issues, we do have a service desk that will pick up within the first couple of rings with a technician that'll walk you through whatever your issue is, or show you how to maybe transfer a call or park and hold a call or something like that. So that would be one of the main, one of my main points is the value of service. We're also going to kind of go in and make sure that your network is set up properly with all the correct hardware in order to have that quality of voice. And the quality of voice is really the main part of that.
So you're saying we also service the customers along with the technology as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We take care of the front end and the service following.
Nice. All right. I think we'll go ahead and finish up. I'd like to thank everyone who's joined us. If you think of any other questions that may pop up or arise here in the future, feel free to give Patrick or Jeff, send them an email, and they'll get back to you as soon as possible with any further questions or inquiries about our voice over IP service. Thank you.